previously on Sembocuz.
Wooden spoons, I can get behind that. And sporks, I can definitely get behind. Sporks is like top tier innovation.
What's up, everybody? I'm here with my older nephew, Brennan. He has a really long tongue. Show him the tongue. Okay, cool. Anyway, I just showed him my video on spoons that I made back in, I want to say, April, maybe. And he agreed with me at some parts, and at other parts he was just like, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but don't really agree. So this is kind of like a follow-up video. I said I would do a response video, or a sequel, if the other one got some good reviews. And I would say that it got about 67 likes as of the recording of this video. And for me, only having 44 subscribers, I would take that as a W. So, yeah. What do you want to argue about first?
So, you were saying that spoons are useless unless they're a ladle or a wooden spoon. And for the most part, I would agree, but spoons do have their use. Like, when it comes to cereal, everyone wants that little bit of milk in their spoon, and a fork isn't going to give that to you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this thing's for, spork. So my biggest question is, why do we even worry about spoons and forks when we've already invented this?
Exactly.
Like, if you think about it, although we do have, us guys do have a separate toilet for peeing and pooping, we don't need the one for peeing. So why are we using that one?
What he's trying to say is, why make 2 stalls and 4 urinals,
when you could just
or 5 urinals, especially whenever there's this like unspoken rule where you have to skip a urinal. You don't piss
so
next
every
to
other
another
urinal
person.
is useless.
Yes. So you really, if there's 5, you're only going to use 2 or 3. So honestly, just make a bunch of stalls, or yeah, just make a bunch of stalls, because then it's multi-purpose, kind of like a spork is.
Yeah, like, you ever been in a woman's restroom? They just have nothing but stalls. And it seems like there's more toilets in there. Like, you would get more use out of all of them if everything was a stall.
Mm-hmm.
Just like this. Nobody ever really uses spoons unless they're eating one of 2 things. Soup, which is debatable. You don't have to use a spoon for soup. You can use a fork and then drink the broth.
A point that I made in my last video.
Which is one that I agreed with. Or cereal, because everybody wants that little bit of milk in their spoon. Other than that, everybody uses forks. So why are we wasting materials to make both spoons and forks when we have this lovely piece of human ingenuity?
And I want to mention, last video there was a comment saying, what about yogurt? And I thought about it for a second, and I was like, and I was like, Go-Gurt. Go-Gurt is probably one of the most...
It's the best way to, it's the best way to consume yogurt.
Yes,
for sure.
Because if you
just
think,
tube, it's almost like a feeding tube. Like, just shove it down my throat.
The rim probably has the rim probably has the same amount of plastic as a Go-Gurt tube does. The rim of a Activia cup probably has the same amount of plastic as a yogurt or as a Go-Gurt thing.
And Go-Gurt's more fun.
Go-Gurt is more fun. So if other yogurt companies did happen to invest in tube technology, I guess is what it would be called,
then we wouldn't even need sporks.
We wouldn't, for that, because we would still need sporks for...
Maybe that's what we should do with soups. Put them in microwavable pouches, and then just...
They do that with rice.
That'd be a more fun way to eat soup than doing you either blow on it or do the hush.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be a lot more...
Like they make the bagged teas.
Yeah.
At wherever that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway. I think what we're saying is...
Not sponsored yet.
Another point that came to mind when he was talking about the plastics in the ocean a spork is both a spoon and a fork. We're not going to get rid of knives because
You kind of have to have knives.
Those are actually useful.
Yeah. Well, all of them are useful, but they could be made into one.
Yeah. So, what I'm thinking is, we stop making plastic forks and plastic spoons, and we just make plastic sporks. That way we don't have to use twice the amount of material the way that we're making it right now. Because then you have twice the amount of plastic in the ocean, killing twice the amount of turtles. And that's twice the amount of sand.
And the point that he made earlier is that if you made spoons and forks, and instead you wanted to eradicate all of that and just make sporks, it's less than making a spoon, and then you wouldn't even have to make forks anymore.
Yeah, so you're saving all materials. The only objection that Sam brought up before the making of this video is that sporks are kind of tacky, but who cares? Once you normalize it in a restaurant, like if there was, so like say Crazy Bob's, because you mentioned Crazy Bob's last time, you switched to just sporks. You could use, well, you would be saving money for one, because you're not having to buy plastic spoons and forks. You're just buying sporks. So you're saving money, and you're not getting any less use out of it. Like, you wouldn't have to give a separate thing. Like, if somebody ordered beans, but they also had, like, brisket or ribs or something like that, and they just pulled the meat off the rib, they could use the fork part for the meat and the spoon part for the beans. And boom. And
I made a point last video, and I said it's like a multi-tool, and everybody likes multi-tools.
Yeah,
or
it's like,
most people like. If you don't like multi-tools, then I mean,
yeah, it's
okay,
like,
but
who wouldn't want a Swiss Army knife?
Exactly.
And this is the Swiss Army knife of the culinary world. It's literally perfect.
And I'm said, like, say you can buy one thing for $20, and then also you could buy another thing for $15. And you only wanted this $20 thing right now, but you think that other $15 thing looks cool and that it's very useful, that it could be of use to you in the future. Would you spend $20 now and $15 later? Or say it had a bundle for $25, would you just spend $25 for the bundle?
You just spend the 25.
And that's what sporks would be. They might even be cheaper or the same price as getting spoons and forks, but you only have to buy one of the stock.
Well, and the whole point about it being tacky, as soon as a restaurant normalizes it and just supplies the spork and the knife, and other restaurants start to see, like, oh, that's not that weird, then everybody else is doing it, and it's normalized, and it's no longer tacky.
But the problem with that is getting it normalized. Because if you're, you would have to pitch it to a restaurant, or not even pitch it, you would probably have to be like, you'd have to convince almost to the owner or the CEO or something that's just like, well, we could just use sporks, but then they might be like, well, why would we do that whenever we already have this, like...
Yeah, so what you were saying before this video, everybody in their house already has spoons and forks. Well, buying an extra set of sporks would kind of be pointless, because you already have both of the tools. And if you only need to use one, why wouldn't you just grab that one? Well, if a company that produced sporks made this deal where they sent you a set of sporks to use, and you sent your forks and spoons into them, I mean, most of them are metal. They can melt the metal and then reform it into the shape of a spork and send that back to you. And then you're not using any more materials. You're just using what you had before.
Exactly.
And you would get more uses out of that. Because nobody likes, when you go to the silverware drawer in your kitchen, like, say you need a fork because you have a bunch of people coming over, and you need extra forks, like more than what you would normally have for your family. A lot of people are like, you run short on forks because you got a stupid little brother that's a redhead, throws his forks away with his paper plates. Yeah, Brody's a redhead.
I had no clue.
Yeah. So anyway, like if you just had all of the sporks, like none of the spoons ever really get used when people come over. It's always the forks. So if you had all of them as sporks, you could just pull all of them out, and all of them would be ready to be used, instead of having to have some of them still in the dishwasher because they're dirty. Just makes sense.
To me, it kind of reminds me of like a very convenient, I don't know if it's a very convenient inconvenience or a very inconvenient convenience. Because getting to the point where we normalize sporks, that would be a very inconvenient convenience.
Yeah.
But
it'd be inconvenient to have to go through the process of normalizing it. But once you got through that process, it would be convenient because then everybody's using sporks, and sporks are the most convenient utensil to use. We're
not saying that forks don't use forks or don't use spoons. We're just saying it's not even like we're not even like trying to change anything in the world. We're just saying,
like, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, why is this not used more often?
It's a useful tool, and because it's 2 for the price of 1, quite literally killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Not really literally, but you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
Well, you could eat 2 chickens with the same utensil. Therefore, killing 2 birds with 1 stone.
That is true. You think we could end it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for watching. If you got to this point, because I know there's probably a ton of people that have clicked off by now because they don't want to hear the truth, or
truth hurts.
The truth does hurt. If you could call it the truth, it's not even close to the truth. It's just our opinion.
Call it the truth.
Yeah, we'll call it the truth. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we hope to see you guys at a later date. Goodbye.
Wiener, wiener, wiener.